Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Pond. I'm the awards editor at TheWrap, and welcome to our screening series Q&A of the Lifetime movies by my mother, the Kamiyah Mobley story. If you're here, that means you received a link to the full film yesterday. So what we're going to do, we'll start out with the trailer, and then we'll go right into a Q&A with our Emmy-nominated guest, actress, producer, and director Niecy Nash. The way this will work, I will talk to Niecy for about 30 minutes, and then afterwards we'll take your questions for about 20 minutes more. We certainly encourage you to participate. On the right-hand side of the screen, there's a comment section. Please add your questions, and then the team will forward them to me and to Niecy to answer during the Q&A portion. Also, if you want to make sure you're invited to future events like this one, please check out the membership service Wrap Pro. You can do that on the website. So let's get this started. Before we bring out Niecy, here is the trailer for Stolen by My Mother, the Kamiyah Mobley story.
I got something I need to tell you.
Oh, what's going on?
Robin Roberts presents
A long time ago,
I Took You. I ripped from the headlines feature.
I don't even know who you are anymore.
I'm the woman who raised you, who loves you.
Wait! Tonight, the truth. Alexis was, in fact, baby Kamiyah snatched from a Florida hospital in '98.
Based on a true story.
I thought I knew exactly who I was.
I'm sorry, your life got turned upside down.
Kidnapping is a serious crime.
That is my baby. I am your mother, Kamiyah.
Niecy Nash.
Your birth parents have waited a long time for this day.
I just feel like I'm being tug of war. Tell them that you gave me the best life possible. Why do I have to get people to kidnap her for your love? She will always be my mom.
Stolen by My Mother, the Kamiyah Mobley story. On Lifetime.
Okay, we're back. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest. She's been nominated for an Emmy 3 times as an actress, most recently last year for Ava DuVernay's When They See Us. She's won an Emmy for producing Clean House. She's worked as a director. Please welcome Niecy Nash, who plays Gloria Williams in Stolen by My Mother. Welcome, Niecy.
Hello, thank you.
So thanks for joining us. You know, this is a very powerful and really heartbreaking true story. What made you want to be a part of it?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I was familiar with the story, and I thought it was heartbreaking for all the women involved. Second of all, I love Lifetime. Third of all, who doesn't love Robin Roberts? So it was the perfect trifecta for me.
Mm-hmm. Right. How much did you know about the story? I mean, I would imagine that once you got into this, there was a lot of stuff that you learned that you hadn't known before.
Well, I had seen some coverage on it, docu-style. So I was familiar a little with, you know, how it all happened, when it all happened, but unpacking it to star in the film was a completely different thing.
Yeah, right. So the person you play, Gloria Williams, is, not to give it away for people who haven't seen it, but she's in jail right now and will be for a while. You didn't have the opportunity to spend any time with her or speak with her, did you?
I did not have the opportunity to do that. Alexis / Kamiyah did come to set while we were filming. I was doing double duty, so I wasn't there the day she came, but I did not get a chance to speak to her mom. What I was able to do, or to speak to Gloria, but what I was able to do is pour over all of the scripts from the court and all of the video footage that existed prior to starting filming.
Mm-hmm. Right. So how was that really extensive?
But of course, I mean, you know, there is a great charge when you are playing someone who is still with us. And with that being said, making sure that that I leaned into her mindset as much as I could, her heart space as much as I could was imperative.
Mm-hmm. Right. So for you, how important was it to get as close as you could to what Gloria may have, looked like or sounded like or acted like? I mean, how closely were you trying to get to her?
Well, let me say that when I enter into something and say, I'm going to play this character, the very first thing that goes to work in my mind is the visual. So I want to make sure that I see it when I look in the mirror. And then after that, my second step is to feel it. So poring over the videos to understand her mindset, because like left to my own devices, once the cops would have put me in handcuffs or I got dragged into court, you know what I mean? Niecy Nash would have been wailing and gnashing and throwing myself all across the mercy of the court and everything. But for me, I believe Gloria was a little more composed because she had been preparing for this day for 18 years. She knew that this day was coming. So I had to think like her.
Right. I mean, I know when I was watching it, I was thinking, is there ever a moment when Gloria is able to relax and enjoy life with this little girl who she took from the hospital when she was only a few hours old? Or is it always in the back of her mind, I stole her, I shouldn't have her, I can't enjoy this? And there's a scene partway through where the daughter, who is now a teenager, needs a Social Security card to get a job, and Gloria immediately breaks down and admits it and pulls the clipping out of her purse. And at that point, you think, this has never been anywhere but like right in her mind through the whole life with this child.
For me, I would say, based on my research, absolutely, that has been her singular focus this whole time, is loving this baby, providing a beautiful life for her, not wanting her to want for anything, but at the same time knowing that one day the bottom is going to fall out. I can't keep her a baby forever.
Right. So was it hard for you to understand that initial act and why she would do that? And to play her, do you need to understand it?
First of all, let me say it was not hard to understand it. I think that every character I approach, I try to find a thread between myself and them to make it real for me in my instrument. And what I would say I understood with regards to Gloria Williams was pain. The decisions that she made from pain that was happening inside her. And I think we've all been at a place where we can look back on something we did and say, maybe that wasn't the best decision and I made it because I was feeling this and or that.
Right. I know the last time we talked, you said something to me about you can't really judge someone else's pain.
No, you can't.
Right. So when you were trying to figure out a way into Gloria, I mean, were there certain things that were a key for you that helped you understand her?
Figuring out my way into her. The one thing I will say is that at all times, you're wearing the mask. You're putting on the face because you need everyone to believe that this is your child. You need Alexis / Kamiyah to believe it. You need to move around in a way that is going to say everything about this situation is legitimate. And because it's not, I believe it's part of the reason that she did so much in her church and so much in her community, because she was trying to right a wrong and compensate for this injustice that occurred.
Right. Well, for the people who haven't seen it, let's talk a little bit about what led her to this point, because she was in a relationship that was essentially abusive. But her boyfriend also wanted a child, and she was and thought that another child would fix things, and then she had a miscarriage. I mean, do you feel like it was a combination of that kind of stuff that really
I
led
think
her to
I probably would say there were multiple things that led to it. A lot of people are not really aware of the fact that Gloria Williams had two other children before she took this baby. She had two boys that were taken away from her because her boyfriend was abusive. And he kept saying, but if I had a baby of my own, everything would be worked out. It would be so much different between us. And when you're already broke and broken, you want to believe that I did not sacrifice all of these things for nothing. And you're hoping that you're hanging all your hopes on this one thing. And when that thing doesn't materialize because she ended up having a miscarriage, I believe that a part of her insides just, it broke into a million pieces. And she made a decision that I'm sure she later regretted.
Right. But I would think, in a way, how do you regret a decision that gives you this girl that you have raised? I mean, even though you know it's wrong, the emotional connection there between her and the daughter she knew as Alexis would have made it hard to regret it.
Well, I mean, in the sense that the decision that she made caused so much pain on the other side of it. See, because it was good until it wasn't. It's like a Ponzi scheme. When everybody is making money, it's good. But when the bottom falls out, that's when somebody is going to have to pay the price. And ultimately, I say there are no winners in this story, because you have the lives of three women that were ultimately devastated by this one act.
Right. Was it tough emotionally to be in that space, or is it easy for you to move in and out?
That's a good question. The thing that I would say about that is that that's my job. So whether it's doing, improv in the moment on a show like Reno 911, or whether it's tapping into an emotional space that you have to be in for the Kamiyah Mobley story, or when they see us, you, as an artist, you learn how to use your instrument for the charge before you. So I don't know if I would equate it to easy or hard. I just think in your art, you do what is necessary.
Right. So on this one, I mean, what were the biggest challenges for you as an actress on this film?
Well, I always think that there is a huge challenge when you are playing people who are still with us. The onus is to get it right. And I think that to thread the needle of showing Gloria Williams as a good person who did a bad thing, as opposed to a bad person who did a bad thing, was the balance I needed to strike. So I needed to make sure I stayed right in that pocket.
So did you need to feel like she's a good person who did a bad thing?
I did.
Right. Now, has Gloria seen the film, do you know?
I do not know. And the other thing I will say about this project too is that the primary lens that we visit this story through in this adaptation is through Alexis / Kamiyah's version of events. So it was very heavily influenced by her. So every woman has a story in all of this, but this lens just happens to be hers.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know the family of is it Shanara, the birth mother, spoke out against this film, but I think before they had seen it. But do you understand their concerns with it?
I absolutely understand their concerns because, you know, like I said, every woman has a story. It does not always end in glory, but every woman has one. And if you sit down with Gloria and you sit down with Kamiyah / Alexis and you sit down with Shanara, each of them will give you this story through their prism. And rightfully so, you want to protect the version that you feel like is the right version. So yes, I don't understand her point of view. I overstand it. Anyone would feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So this is, this is a very emotional, heartbreaking, tough subject and tough story. But were there moments where you actually had fun with it? Were there moments on set that you could enjoy what you were doing?
Well, I think that when we filmed some of the earlier scenes between Gloria and Alexis, where she was like a teenager before she found out, some of those scenes we were able to find a little levity and a little fun. And the way I entered in was to begin to mother her even behind the scenes. You know what I mean? So even off camera, you have to develop a connective tissue. So did you eat? Who is that on the phone? Is that your boyfriend? What did he say? What are you wearing? Those jeans are too tight. Why you got all that lipstick on? So we began a relationship that then transferred to the lens. And there was definitely light in those moments. And it was super fun when Robin Roberts came to set. That was a good time.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, as I look at your career over the last few years, it's like, I think you came to a rap panel with Claus. I know we interviewed you for When They See Us. You did Reno 911. That's not a group of projects that you would think necessarily fit together. So was this a career plan to be all over the map like that, or is it just get lucky?
Well, I don't think I'm lucky, but I do think I'm blessed. Let me say that. And secondarily, I will say I entered into the business in comedy. So people were like, oh, she's a comedian. We get it. We know what you do. And I always wanted to do drama. Or very, very dark comedy that skewed into drama. And after I did Getting On for HBO, it was like the world opened up in this whole new way because I had only ever done comedy. And after Getting On, I went on to do Ava DuVernay's Selma. I did When They See Us. I did Uncorked for Prentice Penny on Netflix. I started to do the Kamiyah Mobley story, many more dramas, and people were like, oh, you do this thing and you can do this well. So revisiting Reno 911 reminded people like, oh, that's right. She was a comedian first. So I've tasted a little bit on both sides, and I'm a happy girl. Let me say that.
Yeah. So some people say that that drama is easy, comedy is hard. What do you think?
What I think is that there isn't anyone in the world who can teach you how to be funny. Either you are born with that thing or you're not. I think you can take a class on how to cry on cue, but people who can make you laugh can make you cry. And it is not true in reverse.
Mm-hmm. Right. So when you were making us laugh, did you always wanted to be a dramatic actress as well?
Of course, I always wanted to be a dramatic actor. I didn't even know comedy was a thing. I used to get in trouble so much for being funny. I would get pinched in church. I would get on punishment because they put talks too much on my report card. And my mother would be like, well, what were you talking about? I was telling jokes, you know? And she's like, you on punishment. How is that for a joke? You know, so I didn't know being funny was a thing. And when I realized it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm not just making my mama laugh and my cousins and my friends and my, you know, I can make other people laugh too. And I realized my brother was murdered in 93. And when my mother went into this depression, the only thing I knew is that I could make her laugh. And that's how I started performing stand-up and performing skits and bits. And it was through that process that I realized that comedy was a gift. And once I realized that, I couldn't book a job anywhere in this town. I wanted to be so dramatic. And I went outside and I said, my name is Niecy Nash and I'm funny. And people say, yes, you are, little girl. Come on over here and let us put you to work. And that's how it began.
Mm-hmm. Right. So from here, do you want to keep doing both? I mean, you've been, the last couple of years, we've known you mostly for drama. But do you still want to get back to comedy?
First of all, let me say very clearly and unequivocally, I like work, period, in the sentence. And if I had to choose, and I could only do one thing for the rest of my life, I probably would make people laugh.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've also worked as a producer, so I would imagine you have some say in where your career goes from here. So, do you have specific things coming up?
Do I? No. I have another drama coming, believe it or not. But I'm excited about it. It's great. You know what I mean? At this stage of the game, it's more about the scripts. Whether it's funny or not, it is the writing that I think I'm led by most of all these days. So I'm hoping to finish a drama first. And then if I'm lucky, go into, if it finds its way to me, a very dark comedy would be delicious.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, I know last year when we talked to you about When They See Us, I mean, that was a Ava DuVernay project about police violence against young men of color, basically. It certainly was saying we need this conversation, which we clearly have needed for a very long time. But now it seems like that conversation is more at the forefront than it has been for a long time. I mean, as a Black woman, are you optimistic that we're at a point where change is even possible?
You know what? I'm always optimistic. And I always am hopeful that we can get closer to the mark. I mean, we have a long way to go, but I do feel like we collectively are putting pressure on policymakers to bring justice. And I mean, I think that's what this moment in time is all about. And people who have been around way longer than me all say this feels different. So I am absolutely hopeful that we can get further along than we have in times past, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Right. What do you think the sort of the role of television and film and Hollywood is in all of this?
I think that we shine a light. We shine a light on things, and you are forced in a way to have to sit up and pay attention. You know, when we told the story of who I lovingly call the Exonerated Five, it wasn't a new story. But we brought it to light in such a way that made people sit up and pay attention so you can understand it, you know, and that was a year ago, and look at where we are right now. And I think that art always informs, it inspires, it educates. And it does all of those things before it entertains.
Right. I mean, what was the art that really spoke to you when you were growing up? Were there certain things that made you want to get into the business?
Imagery. I saw the most beautiful Black woman I had ever seen on television at 5 years old. And I've seen Black people on TV, but they did not have the glamour and the regalness. And I looked at my grandmother and I said, who is this lady? And my grandmother said, baby, that's Lola Falana. And I felt like in that moment, you know, God stamped on the canvas of my imagination my destiny. And I looked at my grandmother and I said, I want to be Black, fabulous, and on TV. And that was that on that.
Right. And you did it. I mean,
hey, come on now.
There's probably a lot of people who say things like that who don't end up doing it.
Well, they better come on. They better come on and let's get it.
Right. Well, before we'll go to questions from the audience in a minute. Before that, I just want to say, I mean, how important do you think it is that outlets like Lifetime are telling stories of the African American experience?
I think it's beautiful. I think it's timely, and I think it's necessary. But I also think the world is also bigger than just Black and white women. You know, you got Asian women, Muslim women, African women. You know, I shudder to think, Hispanic women, that the world is just Black and white, because it's not. But I think, you know, steps in the right direction, even if they're baby steps, is still progress. So yay, Lifetime. And yes, I think it's necessary for all of our stories to be told.
Okay.
Everyone wants to see themselves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess for you, that was it seeing yourself or seeing who you wanted to be that you know, that drew you in?
Is it the chicken or the egg? I think I was already glamorous and fabulous. And I just was like, oh, I can do it and be over there. I'll take it. Can you be glamorous at 5 years? Because I had a rabbit jacket that I wore to school with a velveteen dress and patent leather shoes. I was already fabulous. So there.
I'm sure that, Niecy, there was never a time when you weren't fabulous. So, well, if yeah, we're open to questions from the audience now. If anybody has anything to ask, please do. But yes, I imagine that at age 5, you probably struck quite a figure on the kindergarten playground.
So, of course I did. But I see a question here from Angela. Niecy, I found myself rooting for Gloria as the film progressed. Did you find yourself empathizing with her at all? Man, there was a part of me. First of all, I carry a burden for each one of these women for different reasons. But yes, there was a part of me that understood that Gloria was in so much pain when she made that decision. Even though she was trying to make the best out of a decision that she made, I felt sorry for the fact that she had gotten to that point. She was you know how you see sometimes in social media, there's that post that says, make sure you check on your strong friend. She was considered the strong friend in her family. And the weight of having to put on and be perfect and have it all together, married to being in an abusive situation, and then losing a baby that she thought was going to bring it all together, left her in a hard place. And I do feel sorry for that. So yes.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I would imagine, okay, here we go. Did it make you look at things differently in life after shooting this movie? That's from Deborah's World.
I think that what it showed me was that you can never judge a person based on what you think you would do. Because you could say, oh, I would never do that. You know what I mean? I mean, many women might say, I would never let a man hit me. And then when you find yourself in a situation where you stayed with somebody who did it, you eat those words. So you can never say what you would never do. Oh my goodness, I would never have stooped to doing this or that. And I'm just saying, but for the grace of God, there go any of us. And so I don't tempt fate by saying what I wouldn't do because I don't want to be tested.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Was it hard to create a feeling of being in the South while you were shooting in Canada? It was very impressive.
Oh, thank you. But no, because at the time we were there, it was pretty hot. So that helped because sometimes the stickiness is its own character that helps inform the space and the time that you're in. So no, being in Canada wasn't that bad.
Okay. When will we see you behind the camera directing again? Sharon wants to know.
Sharon King, I don't know. I'm hoping to figure out a way to go and get behind the camera over at Lifetime. So we'll see. Maybe soon. Schedule for me.
Right. Okay. Here's Rhea. Do you feel that a TV movie releasing now when most cinemas are shut is more timely because more people will be exposed to such an important story?
Being home under quarantine, I think has allowed us to slow down a bit, and most people can find things that they hadn't found before, or maybe they wouldn't find if we were still, moving the same way. So with regards to entertainment, I think you have a very you have an audience that is a little fuller than maybe you would have had before all of this happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask before the next question. Are you finding yourself watching more TV or watching things you wouldn't have watched?
Well, especially at the beginning of the lockdown, for sure, catching up on different series that my friends may have starred in, but because I was working, I was filming Claws in Louisiana, I didn't have a lot of time to watch television. It's hard to watch TV when you're filming it for 16 hours a day. So it did give me a chance to catch up and binge some things. So yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Michelle, the story is a tragic short story of loss and brokenness, but there's also a story of motherhood and the connection between a mother and a child. What's your opinion of the definition of a good mom?
Michelle. That's such a hard question. But here's the short answer. I think that when it comes to motherhood in totality, you never stop trying. And you have to, in order to really be a good mom, you have to take care of yourself. And a lot of times we don't. A lot of times we keep giving and giving and giving to others before we give to ourselves, and we get the last, when it really should be the other way around. We should make sure we're full first, because then we're restored, we're renewed, we're revived. And then everything else that comes out of the cup is the overflow for other people, and they get the best parts of us. So loving yourself in a very real way will give vent to you being a better mother. And you got to know your gifts. You know what I mean? You got to know the parts that you can do and the parts that are a struggle. And you got to be honest with yourself about it. I know I am. Oh, it's a tough job. Whew.
Okay. Are there any other true stories, real life or famous characters you'd like to bring to the screen?
Oh my goodness. I love the story of Donna Summer. I think that would be something very interesting. Who else's life was I thinking about saying would be interesting? She's the first person that comes to mind, but I think there is such magic when you unpack stories that are based around real people. So I would definitely be looking forward to and considering someone else's true life story. That's for sure.
Right. So why Donna Summer?
Oh, I just think that of what I've been able to learn, that she just led a very interesting life, from being a dance hall, queen, or as it were, to, finding religion later in life, and just a beautiful woman whose story I have not really heard unpacked in a way that I would like to see.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How did you get your own foot in the industry as an actor, going from CSUDH to Hollywood, and any advice for current Cal State students seeking to enter such a competitive industry?
How did I get my foot in the industry? Okay, I'm going to answer this question for you, Simone, but now I am going to give a disclaimer and say, I don't know if you should do what I did, but here you go. I always believed that was what I was supposed to be doing, was entertainment. I went to a workshop. You pay money and you get to perform in front of casting or directors or agents. And I did that. And the person said that I was talented, but that was it. So I called them up and I said, I don't know if you remember me. And the man said, this is Niecy Nash, because I do have a voice that sounds like I need to drink lotion. And with that being said, I said, I'm broke, I got a baby, and I need a job. You said I was talented, so you might as well be responsible for my introduction into Hollywood and hook a sister up. To which he replied, be down here at 3:00. So I went down and I auditioned with no agent, no manager. And when I finished my audition, they said, thank you. And I said, you're welcome. And they said, thank you. And I said, don't mention it. And they said, thank you, you may go. I said, oh, y'all are dismissing me. Well, did you pick me? And they said, someone will let you know, dear. And I said, let me know when. I got a baby at home. I told that man over there I had a baby. Did you tell them that I said I had a baby at home? And it was just a mess. And it was, but they were like, oh my gosh, she's adorable. Where did you find her? And they ended up giving me a job in a movie called Boys on the Side that starred Whoopi Goldberg, Mary Louise Parker, and a very young Matthew McConaughey. And that was how I got started.
Okay, well, Simone, I hope you have a baby at home. All right. How do you make yourself cry? Do you think of something sad?
I have been through so many painful things in my life that it's probably already just below the surface. I'm either doing one of the two. I'm laughing to keep from crying, or I'm just letting it all fall. So I don't have to make myself cry. I have years worth of tears that have been suppressed in this body. And so at a whim, they just come out. That's all I know to tell you.
Okay. All right. You mentioned Lola Falana as an inspiration. Who've been your other acting inspirations?
Ooh, acting inspirations. Lola Falana, like I said. I love Reese Witherspoon. Listen. It's so many women. We have so many amazing women. I'm recently in a series called Mrs. America on Fox. It's on Fox and on Hulu, FX, and on Hulu. And I was such a fan of Sarah Paulson. Just a diehard fan, and to be able to get to work with her and Margot Martindale and Kate Blanchett and Uzo Adobo, like that entire cast, Elizabeth Banks. I look at all those women and I'm just like, it's too many women literally to name.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you looking to produce other stories that you will not necessarily act in, but want to bring to the big and little screen?
Erica, heck yes. Why, you got something? Yes, my production company is called Chocolate Chick for obvious reasons. But yes, looking for projects as we speak.
Mhm. And you don't have to be in them. You're fine.
Oh no. Sometimes you just wanna, you wanna be in the background.
Right. Okay. All right. So here's a tough one. What is the most challenging character you have played?
Ooh, most challenging. Well, I will say for different reasons, I feel like playing Dolores Wise in When They See Us was challenging because there were parts of her life that were dark in the sense that she was unaccepting of her children's lifestyle, some of her children's lifestyle, and to find that place to come across as that mean and cold-hearted was hard. And I'm glad that there was a transition and you got to see her differently, but in those early scenes it was very tough. And then I will say that leading a series like Claws, playing Desna Sims, is different because when you're number one on the call sheet or you're a leading lady, people think that that's entitled. But to me, it's really Indeed. Are you the type of person that people want to follow? That would allow you to be led by them. You know what I mean? So that was different for a different reason.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. You deliver such incredibly nuanced performances, no matter how out there the character is. What is your process of connecting to the character? How much of you do you tap into for these roles?
Great question. I always try to find a common thread between me and any character I play. I don't care what it is. I got to look for it. I got to suss it out. I have to find that thing where we connect and where we meet. And after I do that, first I start with the visual. And then, because every character I play doesn't look like the real me, and then I find some sort of a connected tissue in their behavior, in their thoughts, in their deeds, in their actions that would say, I'm similar in that way. I need a little bit of a jumping off point where we can connect so that I can make the performance as grounded as possible.
Mm-hmm. What was the jumping off place for Gloria?
Well, first of all, I'm a mother of 3. Second of all, I've been in a bad relationship before. And third of all, I know what it is to be in unspeakable pain. And those were the commonalities that I attached to, connecting with her.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, do we have, here we go. Additional audience question. What message do you hope this film sends to the audience?
I think this film is about choices. I think it's about understanding that whatever side you take in a situation, you have to really be honest. In this particular situation, nobody wins. There was not one winner in this particular story. And sometimes everything in life is not always wrapped up in a neat bow. There is just pain that you have to learn how to manage. And I think Shanara was in pain. Alexis / Kamiyah was in pain, and Gloria clearly was in pain. So you have 3 women who are all suffering, and they have to learn how to balance that and still move forward and live full lives in spite of everything that they've been through. And so I think that's what it would be.
Yeah. Okay. In playing the role, did you empathize with Gloria? Did you feel her punishment was appropriate for her crime?
I empathize with every woman in the story. Shanara included. She was thrust into a space, and to have her first child taken from her had to be unspeakable. when it came to what she was dealing with. I think they've all suffered. And do I think the punishment fit the crime? It's not for me to judge and or say. You know, it's not for me to say.
Right. Yeah. I mean, do you feel like you're there as an advocate for whatever character you play?
Am I there for an advocate for them? No, I'm primarily there for their truth.
Mm-hmm.
And if that looks like advocacy, then it is what it is. But I just want to give the truth of the thing as best I can.
Right. Okay. Let's see if we have any other. How is this role different than other roles you played in the past? I mean, what in this role did you do that you hadn't done in anything else before?
I don't know that I've ever done a really bad thing as a character, but was still able to get some empathy from the audience. That's very tricky. You know how you found yourself in some kind of way rooting for Tony Soprano, and you're like, he's a mobster, he's a gangster, he's doing all of these nefarious things, but every time he went in therapy, you wanted him to win. You know, so there's a part of it, even though you're telling this real life story, where you're saying there is empathy somewhere. You know, so I think that trying to thread that needle kind of made it different, especially because this is a true story. It's different when you're doing, you know, make-me-ups.
Yeah. Right. I mean, is there something particularly appealing to you about doing true stories?
You know, I like work. True stories come with a little more of it because you have the onus to get it right. You have a responsibility to the person you're playing, especially if they're still in the land of the living.
Yeah. We have a question. Can you speak to what it was like to be directed by Jeff Bird?
It was everything. I love Jeff Bird. He was definitely a person who listened. He was collaborative, but he also had a great command of the set. He knew exactly what he wanted. And he was just an all-around great guy. I had a really good time.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that was our last question. So thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to have you here. You know, everybody out in the audience, thank you for, you know, for joining us as well. Thank you for your questions. And, you know, go to TheWrap, sign up for your free trial TheWrap Pro, and you'll be the first to know about more of these. So
thank you, guys.